Hello and welcome to Cryptid Hoaxes Part 2. Today we are taking a step back into the territory of the cryptid realm that is a little more cut and dry as to if things are real or not. With the subject of our video, I am opening the door to all realms of the paranormal world. As mentioned in a previous video of the same name, this is in no way being made to poke fun at or discredit people's beliefs. As with anything, there is always room for information being missed that may be factual. However, with the ones in this video, there is more evidence to support the creatures being the figment of someone's imagination. After that huge disclaimer, let's jump right into it. Surgeon's photo. Starting off, we are going to jump into one of the most well-known hoaxes, so we'll get it out of the way early. Loch Ness in Scotland is said to have a sea monster swimming around the waters, and sightings of the creature known as Nessie were at one time quite frequent. Within this topic, there is historical reports to support the idea that some strange creature does in fact call the body of water its home. These writings are quite numerous and date back to 500 AD. Now what exactly the animal is up for debate, as it has been claimed to be an oarfish, eels, a large catfish, and more famously, a plesiosaur. This well-known cryptid has been photographed many times throughout the years till present, but there is one that stands above them all as the most infamous, and that would be the surgeon's photo. After a recent sighting of a strange monster in the loch in 1933 by George Spicer and his wife, the Daily Mail newspaper hired a big game hunter named Marmaduke Wetherell to try to track down the beast. Marmaduke was unsuccessful in his hunt, but did claim to find footprints of the monster in the dirt. However, it quickly came out that this hunter had planted the tracks himself, and he vanished from the public eye. Not long after this, a well-known British surgeon by the name of Colonel Robert Wilson produced photographs that would send the Nessie hunt into full swing. He claimed that while driving along the loch on April 19th of 1934, he caught sight of the creature in the water, so he stopped his car and took this famous photograph. Even though his image was very popular, he did everything he could to try to distance himself from being tied to it. The reason behind his strange behavior would finally come out in 1984, when Stuart Campbell from the British Journal of Photography analyzed the image and came to the conclusion that what was depicted in the water couldn't be more than 2 or 3 feet long. Then in 1994, a 93-year-old man by the name of Christian Sperling stepped forward and stated that the whole thing was a hoax. In his story, he said that Marmaduke, who was his stepfather, asked him to create a realistic serpent model for the specific purpose of creating a hoax. Christian used a toy submarine bought from F.W. Woolsworth and utilized wood putty for the neck and head. All materials for the project were bought by Marmaduke's son, Ian. After it was photographed, it was then handed over to Colonel Wilson, as he was a friend with Mr. Wetherell and enjoyed a good prank. The group knew that passing the photos to Mr. Wilson, and him being a respected surgeon, the story would be easier for people to believe. It later came out that the whole reason behind the hoax was an order from Marmaduke to get revenge on the Daily Mail, since they humiliated him after exposing his fake footprints. Interestingly, the first place the group sold the photos to was the Daily Mail, who run a huge front page article. Even though the story alleges that the incident was a hoax, there are still many who believe it was real. Mainly due to Christian exposing it on his deathbed rather than Colonel Wilson, the fact that the truth took so long to come out, and that there are other photos taken by Wilson who are thought to be legitimate. Slenderman, Rake, Stickman. Moving on to topics that are interesting, but at the same time, one is wrought with controversy. While I am not a huge fan of the creepypasta style genre, I am quite fond of how it shows we can still have stories of creatures roaming about that don't have to be dated back to early history. I am lumping all 3 of these together since being they are recent, information isn't too abundant on each. For the most part, I'm going to focus on the Stick People and Rake more due to the subject of the Slender Man being common knowledge that it isn't factual. but I will touch on it briefly. The Slender Man was created in 2009 by a man named Eric Knudsen on the website called Something Awful. The purpose of its creation was due to a contest being run on the site where users were to Photoshop pictures into something representing something paranormal. These photos were then supposed to be shared on other forums, but to be presented as authentic. The Slender Man is a tall, skinny being that doesn't have a face, but always wears a suit and tie, and can grow tentacle appendages. It is said to be able to teleport, cause people to go insane, and is known to kidnap people, normally children and teens, for an unknown purpose. Sadly, many instances arose where disturbed kids were said to be acting out in violent ways due to being influenced by the Slender Man stories. I don't want to get into that too much, but I want to mention that in most of the cases, the stories were blamed but were not the culprit, and their actions revealed more of a mental issue with the children. One girl involved with the crimes also claimed to talk to Lord Voldemort from Harry Potter, as well as a few Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But that fact never got mentioned in the news stories, since the Slender Man was an easier culprit. Anyway, back to topic. The Rake is a creature that has gained quite a bit of popularity as of late, and even in checking out the details on it, the lore mentions that stories exist back in the 1600s. To the untrained eye, many of these stories portray this creature as not being completely made up. The Rake is a 6-foot-tall creature that is very pale in color, normally crawls around on all fours, has odd-looking black eyes, and is said to skulk about watching people. If approached, they will unhinge its mouth, revealing many dull teeth, widen its eyes, and is capable of killing its victims easily. Many view it as being an interdimensional being, but not much is known behind its motives. This creature is quite terrifying to look at, but it is mainly found only in urban legend. Its real story started on a site called 4chan in 2005. In that post, created by an anonymous user, it asked for people to contribute ideas to create a new monster. As the post grew and more people helped out, popular features started to be added to the new creature until it became what it is today. After this, people contributed images of what they thought it should look like, and others got to work creating a backstory to it. The whole premise of the project was to create something new, like how creatures from folklore started. That is the good news, knowing it is fake. The bad news is that a creature very similar to it is said to exist and is known as a doppelganger. Throughout historical accounts, many cultures have creatures similar to the Rake, but all act like a doppelganger. Outside of those topics, a few videos popped up, mainly from what appeared to be Russia, showing strange shadow-like figures that shared the same lanky appearance as Slender Man. These creatures were quite simply known as Black Stickmen. The Stickmen are said to move around silently and can range in size from an average person size to as tall as a building. They are two-dimensional and are somewhat similar to shadow people. People that have encountered them report feeling suddenly aggressive or even nauseous. The creatures have not been known to cause harm to people directly, or even try to communicate with them. In many sources I could find where these beings were ruled a hoax, yet that was all that was said. I am fairly certain that the videos presented are fake, but after reading about people's encounters as well as paranormal groups investigating them, I am thinking that they may be real. So they still fit on this video since the media is a hoax, but the jury is still out if they are as well. I'll leave this one for you to decide. Elephant in the room. Okay, I know with a title like that you are probably a little confused, and you have every right to be. I couldn't think of a better subject line without causing too much anger. Due to us talking about hoax cryptids, I need to mention a pair that really hit home for me and are a little concerning. A few months back, I made a video for the cryptid spotted in West Virginia known as the Grafton Monster. Within that story there were a few questionable aspects to the sightings, but for the most part it wasn't anything groundbreaking or uncommon. Many people rule it as a hoax due to those discrepancies, as well as wrongfully thinking that it was only seen a few times. After my research, I found that a similar creature was spotted in other areas more times than originally thought. However, I also came across a man by the name of Gray Barker, who is greatly tied to much of the information as known about the reports. After looking into it a bit more, I was pained to find this name pop up with another cryptid sighting, which was the Mothman. Why this is significant is due to the fact that Gray Barker, who is a fairly well-known author, is also known as a person who enjoyed portraying false information as truth. One of the main things that he was known for was writing about UFOs, but he called his own works kooky books, and according to one of his close friends, he claimed he considered all ufology a joke. This man enjoyed putting information out there just to mess with people that have our interests. In fact, when it came to Mothman, he wrote his book entitled Silver Bridge about the subject 5 years before the more well-known Mothman Prophecies by John Keel. While this information is troublesome, it does not negate the sightings of either cryptid. I am happy to report that his information came out in the 70s and the Mothman wasn't sighted until the mid-60s. The only reason I mention this man is due to me always wanting to give you the full story, and to let you know that some information that is given for cryptids can be the result of unscrupulous people. As I end this, I wanted to mention that I really wanted to include a video of a man holding the head of what appeared to be the creature from the Black Lagoon. In this photograph, there are people standing around him, and one even is using a stick to pull back the lips of the creature, bearing some nasty looking teeth. However, I have been diligently searching for that image for about a month now, and keep coming up empty-handed. I wanted to include it since I remember seeing the unedited version, where it was actually just a normal fish, much like the hunted Bigfoot photo was edited. What is crazy is that I kept running across that image just about every week, but the moment I have a use for it, I can't find it. If you haven't yet done so, please consider subscribing to my channel for content similar to this, and also I'd appreciate it if you could share my videos with someone you know who may be interested in this type of genre. With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.